Hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Chappelle from ProPrepCoaching, and today in this webinar I'm going to talk about allergies and a little bit about IBS. Now, if anything in this particular video is of interest to you and you guys think that we can help you that little bit further, then please do not hesitate to get in touch with us at ProPrepCoaching and we'll see what we can do for you. So without any further ado, let's get into this. So I'm going to talk about allergies, food intolerances, and a little bit, as I say, about IBS in this particular presentation. Now, all the stuff we do at ProPrepCoaching when we get our guys ready for competitions is based on evidence-based practice. So I am a published researcher. I have published upwards of 20 scientific papers in various different nutritional disciplines, including the field of physique sport. So this is something that I'm particularly invested in and can certainly help you guys get to where you want to be. Here are some of my clients in recent years, and over the last 3 seasons we've helped over 100 different athletes get to different stages across different divisions, different federations, different classes across the board, and it's what we do. So like I said right at the start, if you guys think that we can help you, then once again please do not hesitate to get in touch. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is IBS, a little bit about what you can potentially do about it, common food allergies, causes of food allergies, and the consequences of food allergies as well. Excuse the typo. Okay, so what is a food allergy? So you're probably thinking that yourself. So you can pause this little video right now and have a little think about it, but I can give you a definition of one right here, and it's really a substance within a food that causes an allergic reaction. And if you want a dictionary definition, then this is one here from the FSA, and it's where an allergen, which is normally some sort of protein, interacts with the immune system and causes an allergic response. And there are 14 food-specific allergens which are of public health importance. Now, food allergens can be placed into different sort of categories. You've got what's called food hypersensitivity, which really covers all bad reactions to food. So allergies are really included within this. You've got what's called an IgE mediated food allergy, and that's where we get an immune system being brought into play here, and your body produces something called immunoglobulins, and we can detect them being produced within the body alongside a clinical history, so we can measure if there's an immunoglobulin response from here. There's also something called non-IgE mediated food allergies, and food histories and clinical tests are not actually all that useful for this one, or rather I should say allergy tests are not all that useful. You will probably still take a food history on this one. You've got a non-allergic food hypersensitivity, and that's where you've got an immune response whereby the immune system is not involved. So something like a lactose intolerance is based on the fact that you don't have the lactase enzyme within your body, so your body fails to break down that particular sugar, and then it gets metabolized in the lower bowel, and that leads to all the flatulence or the diarrhea and the things like that are caused as a consequence of that. So different types of food allergens. Now, food allergens are a big deal, yeah? They can affect up to 2 million people within the UK alone. You can see here up to 600,000 people have got celiac disease. There's 10 deaths a year, so if you imagine someone who's got a very severe peanut allergy, then they can go into anaphylactic shock from consuming a food allergen. And you most often see these in teenagers because they've never tried a new food before, or in young adults experiment. They've gone their whole life without consuming lupin, for example, and then they found out that they're allergic to it. Foodborne diseases, 35% of hospitalizations are because of these. So that is food poisoning, essentially. But the largest proportion you can see here of hospitalizations are down to hypersensitivities within food. So huge amount of people end up in hospital, and we're talking up to 27,000 days lost per month as well. And this doesn't even account for all of the uncaptured data, if you like. Around the world, you can see here that Australia from 2008 has got the highest proportions of food allergies anywhere within the world. China, interestingly, pre-1999 was much lower down the scale, and then post-2009, much higher up in the scale. And that reflects the change in food consumption patterns that we see within China. So a much more westernized diet than one that they had previously, which was based on a much more Eurasian style diet. Okay, so in terms of food intolerances or allergens, or how do you know that you've maybe not just got something like IBS? Well, here's the thing. IBS tends to manifest largely within the bowel, yeah? Whereas food allergens, we tend to see things across the board. So these are common symptoms that you're going to get within a food allergen. So you see swelling of the lips, running of the nose, blocking, the eyes becoming itchy, people wheezing or getting a tightness of breath. You get skin rashes as well, and then you get all the common symptoms that you see within the lower bowel as a result of it. And that a lot of these things are why antihistamines, for example, work when someone takes has a food intolerance, because it brings down any swelling or inflammation that might be caused around the face and lips. With IBS, a food allergen can potentially cause IBS, but IBS is obviously slightly different, irritable bowel syndrome. And if you have got symptoms of the nausea, the bloating, the diarrhea, the vomiting, constipation as well, or what we call mixed symptoms, so you've got diarrhea and constipation, and it's difficult to know if you're coming or going, it's a poor pun, I know. Bloating as well, and it persists for over 6 months. At that point, then you probably have got some sort of IBS. How do you treat it? Well, with something like IBS, usually it's a case of an exclusion diet. So you start off with a very limited diet with no known potential allergens in it, combined with perhaps potentially what we call a low FODMAP diet. So these are foods which have got what we call fructooligosaccharides, maltooligosaccharides, and polyols, so FODMAPs. And we want to limit those things from the diet and then slowly introduce food items a little bit by a little bit to try and identify what is causing the issue with the IBS. Sometimes it's too much fibre, sometimes it's potentially too little fibre, and it's about finding that sweet spot for someone. Obviously, you can do a similar situation with allergens as well, but with the allergens, we've got a great starting point because we know what some of the most common food allergens actually are. So how does this all work then? How does an immune response get caused in response to a potential food allergen? Well, you need to know or understand a little bit about the immune system. And the immune system is broken into two parts. You've got the innate immune system, which reacts to threats at a time, and it's primed and it's always ready to go. And then you've got the adaptive immune system, which is going to produce your antibodies in response to something which has been brought to it by the innate immune system, and it takes a little bit more time to get itself up and running in response to something. So this is what happens when you get a cold. Your body is to take a little bit of time to get itself up to speed to deal with the potential infection from there. So the immune system is very basic or simplistic, and it identifies molecules or pathogens or threats as something that it calls non-self. And when it comes across something that it regards as not self, then it has a situation where it's trying to work out what to do. So you get these specialist cells called antigen-presenting cells called dendrite cells, and what they do is they sample the environment and then they decide, okay, we're going to then take this potential antigen that I've got and I'm going to present it to a B cell or T cell, and at that point we've got a decision to make of whether this is something which we should be worried about or whether or not we're going to tolerate it from there. And you can pause this video by all means and go and have a little read at all the different individual bits. So this is your bowel, this is your guts, and you've got these antigen presenting cells, the dendrite cells, and what they do is they push their dendrites out into the gut environment and they sample all the molecules that are going to go by. They then take the molecule that's been presented to it, and then they go and give it to a T cell at that point. The T cell then decides what's going to happen, and if it's going to tolerate it, then we get a regulatory response and you produce these Tregs. The immune system's got memory. It remembers that that's a molecule that's seen before, and you don't get a reaction going on to it. How food intolerances work in some cases is that we don't have tolerance for a particular food item. The body identifies it as a non-self thing, and then at that point you then get an immune response taking place. And your body sends a whole host of signals using molecules called cytokines, and then that draws all of these different cells to an area, and then you get inflammation, swelling, and you get all the consequences that occur off of the back of that from there. So it's really the immune system not working as well as it should do when we get these IgE mediated responses from here. The hygiene hypothesis, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but maybe pause that video and have a little think about it. But the idea is that as we have managed to eradicate a lot of the infectious diseases that once plagued human history, the number of autoimmune diseases which have increased exponentially. So there's maybe something in having an environment which has got lots of bugs and things like that in it, and that primes our immune system to be much more tolerant and less likely to respond to things. So that's the hygiene hypothesis in a nutshell, and there's perhaps something in it. So this is the LEAP study, for example, and this is a great example of it, where they took a whole bunch of children who were high risk for peanuts, and what they did basically was they fed them a very, very small amount of peanuts, and then they got another group, and off of the back of it, they didn't give them any peanuts, so they fed them a very small amount versus not feeding them at all. And then he did the skin prick allergy tests on the people that avoided the peanuts versus the ones that took them, and you can see here, based on the different tests, so the consumption group versus the avoidance group, that in most cases you can see that the kids that avoided the peanuts actually started to develop allergy type symptoms. Now, the study itself wasn't 100% perfect. Both sides of the study, they both suffered from side effects, but it's that sort of indication that a small amount of something might actually be good for you rather than completely not getting any exposure at all. And this is just more data off of the back of it. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. You can pause this here and then you can have a little look at this in your own time. But I want to just talk about really the most common allergens that exist. If you want to get a skin prick test, then this is briefly how they would go about doing it. And you can find out more information on the BDA website. Now, the most common food allergens are these 14 allergens here. And there might be some of these in your diet that you haven't even thought about from here. Now, most of us are aware of peanuts, but I don't think as many people are as conscious of things like celery, mustard, shellfish is a common one, sulfites, lupin is certainly one as well. So there's a bunch of things on here that you might not have been conscious of that can potentially give you intolerances towards foods. In terms of the most common ones, you can see here that peanuts, milk, shellfish are really the most predominant of all the allergies, but these are the most common 8 of the 14. In terms of severe reactions, then anaphylaxis can induce, and you see this with people who have peanut allergies. And as a consequence of this, there are laws around this in the EU in which people must label all their foods to prevent some allergic reactions taking place. And that's why when you go into a restaurant, they ask you if you've got any food allergens, and that's why they have to display it all on the menus from there. Because in the worst case scenarios, we have seen things like deaths which result from food allergens. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. And once again, if you found this useful and you think we can help you at ProPrepCoaching, then please, once again, don't hesitate to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And that's our little talk on food allergens. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for your attention.